On this episode of This is Game Boy, we in the zone. Twice. Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new full episode of This is Game Boy. Like always, you have me, Muda, and with me is EBC.
Hello.
Yeah. So, this might be, well, maybe not. This could well be the last episode we record this year. Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Because we're doing these like a little bit in a bunch. Because the holiday seasons are, well,
quickly
the holiday
approaching.
season is coming up, so it's always a bad time to set up things to record during that period, especially because Christmas and New Year are both in a weekend this year, if I remember correctly, so that really sucks. So we're making sure we have plenty of episodes to just put out like normal, so yeah, this is one of these that's coming fast for us.
Yeah, like I did my light recording yesterday. We're doing this full recording today.
Yeah,
Mo's potentially going to record his tomorrow or later in the week. So
yeah,
it's like this episode is slated to come out in December, and we're recording in November 13th. So
yep, plenty of time to go. Gives Legs plenty of time to make them in advance as well. So free time during those holidays.
Battlefield 2042 playtime for the holidays now.
No, thank you. But yeah, speaking of what we've been playing, let's start with you, actually, because you already mentioned Battlefield here, so let's move from that one on.
Yeah, so Battlefield 2042 Early Access came out yesterday, which yours truly had access to, so I played a bit of that. I haven't dove too much into it. I probably only put like 2 hours into the game so far. If any of you are familiar with Battlefield, it's usually been a pretty straightforward click on your game type and then go in and play for tickets. This Battlefield is completely different, and it has a thing where you can like travel back in time with it, which usually sounds like a terrible idea, but it's a little bit different. You can travel back in time and choose to play one of like the older Battlefields with the new graphics. So I've been playing the hell out of Battlefield 1942 because that's the Battlefield I grew up with originally.
Yeah.
And man, does it feel good to be in like the World War II like scene again with these types of games. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that sounds great. I only played Battlefield 2 and the Special Ops.
Yeah.
The add-on or whatever it was called, Special Forces. Loved that game. Like, that's like the only shooter I actually ever loved because it's so much fun to play.
One of my good friends in high school and we poured hundreds upon hundreds of hours into Battlefield 2. Mm-hmm. It was such a good game. So Battlefield 2042, like I said, Early Access came out yesterday. The full release comes out next week, so, well, it'll be out by the time this episode is out. Awesome game, gorgeous looking game. Still some bugs to it, but you expect that nowadays. Assassin's Creed 3, as of this recording, I literally just started the game, so by the time this recording comes out, I'll probably have platinumed the game. So I've been playing, or about to play that. Fortified Zone 1, I actually had to replay this game for this podcast episode, because I actually completely forgot what Fortified Zone was. Like, I knew what it was, but I didn't remember how it played. Like, I had two was fresher in my mind because of the time that I played it, and it was the most recent of the series that I played, so so I replayed through that, just like refresh my memory, essentially. And then Metroid Dread. I finally beat that dumb game. It took me like 7.5 hours to beat, but it took me like a month and a half to play that 7.5 hours because we've been so busy. So like I would play the game, not play it, play the game again, forget how to play the game, not play it, play the game, forget how to play the game again. And it's one of those games where like they just use the most dumb controls you can possibly think of. So like I hate the button combinations they use. Like I just didn't like the game. So it would have been great for 3DS. It's not great for the Switch. So
yeah, it's from the same team that did Samus Returns, I guess it was called, which was a 3DS one. That one played perfectly fine, but I do agree that some of the things it's mostly during boss fights actually, because it kind of hurts your hands if you're not doing it correctly. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I get it's a Metroid game as well too, so like it's up to you to like figure out where to go, the exploring and stuff like that. But like when you get to like when you have all of these like systems in play, like all these button combinations, like there's just so many things to do. Like the game can give you some subtle hints as to like what to do, and the game just gives you nothing. Like every once in a while, the game will like go here, then go here. Okay, well, cool. That's a line I can take. But then like once you're there, you're just like, all right. Well, I've been in like these same 20 rooms the last hour. Like where am I going? All of a sudden, like you magically shoot a wall and a hole opens up. You know, it's like, oh, okay. But that hole didn't open up before because you didn't have the right gun. And then if you missile the wall, sometimes the wall just doesn't show you which item you need to open it up. And it's like, God.
Yeah, for you, it definitely came from like inexperience with Metroid besides like Super Metroid. And the original, I guess, that you played as well, but none of the others. For me, this was a very linear game, actually. Like, I always knew what to do because it is so ingrained in my mind how these games work nowadays that, like, I only got lost once, and that was because I went another path to get something, and then I forgot where I was, actually. But otherwise, it was like a straight line to the finish, basically, for me. Oh, yeah, depends on if you are familiar with the games or not, for sure.
I will say, no spoiler though, I will just say this though. One of the first boss fights in the game, that's a throwback, phenomenal. Loved that. That was my favorite boss fight in the entire game.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then there were two zones that I thought were absolutely gorgeous, and sadly enough, they're like the last two zones of the game. Yeah. I thought they were super, super, super well done, and like the approach, the background to them were, it was so good. Amazing job on that art all around. So I expected more from Metroid Dread because it was on Switch. I don't care that it's a 2.5D platformer side scroller. I actually prefer that. Because the 3D Metroids, from what I've watched on stream, would drive me insane. Yep. I actually like the 2.5D platforming style that this came with. It's just performance-wise, graphic-wise, like all this stuff. Like it just felt like a 3DS game and not a Switch game. Like I played Star Allies, right? Kirby Star Allies, for example. As much as I hate that game, at least plays well for Switch. Like it was made for actual Switch. You know, it wouldn't work well on 3DS. This game here is just basically you could port it to 3DS and port it to Switch, and you wouldn't know the difference. I don't know. I guess I expected more from a Switch Metroid game, but
yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah,
but I mean, when the Game Awards come around, and whenever they come around, you know Metroid Dread is going to be like a top 3 contender of Game of the Year because it's brand new and it's been 500 years since we got a Metroid. So
yeah, I don't know how younger audiences are seeing this game because, again, like for us, Metroid is a well-established series, but it indeed has been 20 years since a 2D Metroid. So I wonder how younger audience who are not familiar with at least 2D Metroid feel about this game, but I do hope it does well, that we can get like a faster, not sequel, because apparently this is the end of this storyline. Not that means much, Like you can start, you can start a new storyline. They just said storyline, so that doesn't mean much. But
they need to make a game that just explains how Samus loses her powers every time she lands on a planet.
Well, they explain it at the start every time.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do. It's always a dumb reason,
your powers are integrated into your suit. She is always wearing her suit. She is never not wearing her suit unless you put in a passcode. She is never not wearing her suit.
Yeah, so it's always a different suit.
And her powers are integrated into the suit. So wear the same suit.
But it usually gets destroyed or whatever. They always have an explanation, but whatever. It's
every Metroid I have ever watched, she has gotten to that dumb ship and flown off the planet in the suit intact.
Yeah, and then it gets destroyed.
How does it get destroyed?
Well, you'll have to play all the games.
Oh my god.
I don't know it by heart.
Also, the story, the plot to this one was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that either.
If you play Metroid for the plot, you're playing the game wrong.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost as thin as Mega Man. Almost.
Mega Man's plot at least makes sense. Go take out Wily and save the world. This one here integrates 16 different games into one. You get Resident Evil in some of it, and Silent Hill in another part of it. PT in another part of it. Ugh.
In the end, it's just Alien. So just go watch Alien and Alien.
Yeah, literally, just go watch Alien 3 and Alien 2, and you will have the entire Metroid Dread experience.
Yeah, that's the entire Metroid. Oh, I mean, those games are based on those movies, so it makes sense.
But Samus doesn't die. Ripley dies.
Well, they
Ripley,
can't
self-sacrifices.
They can't just steal the entire plot. That would be dumb.
Were you there when I beat the game and I just absolutely just destroyed the ending of that game? Just verbally assaulted it.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Oh man. And you don't even I'm gonna spoil this part. You don't even get to kill the animals.
There are no animals.
It's such a sad game. I expected more from a Metroid. That's all I'm saying. And mind you, the last Metroid I played before Dread was Super Metroid, 25 years ago. Yeah. So I had a nice window between Metroid games. I own them all. I just don't play them because I don't like Metroid.
So sad.
Anyway, so what have you been up to?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of games that I can talk much about because, one, I haven't played much because, again, we're really recording these ones fast after each other. So we've played, I guess, Pony Island. But that's for our Hunt Hunter series, for people who are watching those on YouTube. That will be a future one. You'll get to experience that one, and it's a hoot.
It's good.
I had a lot of fun with it, but it's very fun to see me struggle with that game. Let me just say it like that. I've only played one Game Boy game since last time, which is Megalith, and I'm not going to talk about it here because I'm actually doing a light episode on it next, so there's no need to really talk about it. It's a puzzle game. That's basically all you need to know. For those of you who have been listening to the previous episodes, it finally happened. After 2 years and 7 months, I have completed Sekiro. I can't believe it took me that long, but yeah, I actually did it. All in all, it maybe took me 2 weeks, by the way. I just had it since release and never got to the end of it. Everything was fun in that game, except for one boss, Owlfather, who can... yeah, go f*** himself, there you go, just beat that out. I don't care. That one took me 7 hours to beat, and I still don't really get the fight completely, even though I know what to do. But that one was horrible. And then they were like, oh, but that's the second hardest boss. The final boss is actually the hardest. It took me 3 tries to beat the final boss. And he has like 4, well, he has 3 phases, but you have to fight somebody else before it. So, I don't know, maybe it was just a matter of that the sequencing you have to do for Owl Father was harder for me to grasp than the final boss or something. But yeah, that one was horrible. But if you're going for the platinum, and at least for me this wasn't fun, you at least have to play it twice. I used a save copy thing to get the 3 endings. You know how it goes if you have like...
Oh, so you cheated.
No. Like, I got to the end, you have 3 choices, but if you choose it, you go into... You don't go into New Game Plus, but, like, you can keep playing, so you have to reload your save file, but of course it's an automatic save, so if you just copy your save file, you can just choose the 3 endings. So I did that, and then I got the other ending, the 4th ending, by playing through the game again up until a certain point where you have to choose. So I did that. And then you face off against 2 new bosses that are not in the other storyline, I guess. But then I had to get all the skills in the end. Like, you also had to get all the upgrades. That wasn't too bad, but getting all the skills, at least for somebody who's only playing it twice to be done with it, because I have no intention of going to New Game Plus Plus or New Game Plus 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 Plus. Like, one, I don't have the time, and it doesn't interest me either. And I could have gone to New Game Plus Plus, which gives you 50% more experience points, basically, which makes it a lot easier, of course, to level up. But I did it in New Game Plus, so it took me like 8 hours to get of grinding. Killing the same 5 enemies over and over again and reloading the bonfire or whatever you want to call it in these games over and over and over again just to get enough to get all the skills. So is it worth it? Not the way I did it. But yeah, if you're going for the platinum, this is actually one of the easier From Software games to get platinum, in my opinion. But yeah, I finally did it. I'm glad I did, because I really, really love this game. It just took me a while to actually sit down and play it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
I enjoy watching those types of games. I hate playing them.
Yeah, you would not love this one at all. Especially because I saw you fight the last boss in Metroid Dread, which basically is the same deal as the entire game of Sekiro. So I know you would absolutely hate playing it. Like, Dark Souls, I can see you play. Bloodborne, probably the most, but Sekiro, no way. Absolutely no.
I love watching those games. Like, I really, really like watching them. Not because, like, of the skill of or anything. Like, I really do appreciate the art style of the game. Bloodborne, the most out of them all, because I love gothic stuff. So, like, I love watching people play the games. I can appreciate the difficulty and everything else to them, but like I have played Demon Souls, I've played Dark Souls 1, and I liked Demon Souls, but I went to go play Dark Souls 1, I was just like, this is so boring to play. I literally have to stand here, wait 20 seconds for it to swing, then I roll around for the next 5 minutes before I can do anything. I'm just like, this is so boring.
Yeah, that's why I think you would like Bloodborne more, because that one is more about fast movement and fast slashes, and not so much weight and parry, basically. Sekiro is like I said probably in a previous episode, it's more of a rhythm game than it is a fighting game, and it only makes sense if you're playing it. So yeah, it's fast-paced action. It's like great sneaking around and things like that. I love the setting because like Japanese samurai ninja stuff is really cool to me. But like the actual fighting, especially against bosses, is basically a rhythm game. Where you have to press the correct button at the correct time to do what you need to do. And that's basically the entire thing. So.
Did you ever play Ghost of Tsushima?
No, because that one does not seem that fun to me because it's slower paced action.
Right.
Plus that as well. Well, Sekiro is also open world, but yeah, I don't know. Like Ghost of Tsushima, I don't know. It just doesn't appeal to me, even though I like this setting. But maybe one day. Who knows?
That's fair. It does have like that timing and like rhythm stuff to it during fights. So
yeah, it does that.
It is very much like it feels more like an Assassin's Creed game. Like I commented on that when I played it 2 years ago. Like it's very much a samurai Assassin's Creed game. So
yeah, so that's probably why I would not really enjoy it at all. So. But yeah, whatever. And then today I had some time and I didn't know what to play, so I popped in the best Spider-Man game ever.
The first one on Game Boy?
No, the first one on PlayStation. The one made by Neversoft. So with the Spider-Man you can play as in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. I love that game. It's really cool, but looking back at it now, it's like pretty rough character models there. Black Cat not looking that great, but yeah, it's still a fun game. But of course, I was an idiot and I'm playing on hard mode because that unlocks one of the costumes, and I shouldn't have done that maybe. But it's a fun game.
Is that the one where you can deliver pizzas?
No, this is like a very stage-based game. All stages are only like a minute long even or something like that.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of a different one then. Because like there's a Spider-Man I played on the original Xbox where it was very similar to the Spider-Man we got for PS4.
That's the movie. Yeah.
That's the movie? Okay. Because that one you can deliver
one.
pizzas. So.
Yep. Yeah. Apparently Spider-Man 2 from that age of games. So based on Spider-Man 2 the movie. But also not really. Apparently is one of the best Spider-Man games ever made. But I like this one. This one is very nostalgic. It has the best Spider-Man team ever. Just go look it up. PS1 Spider-Man team. It's like the old cartoon one, but like with some pizzazz put into it. I don't know. It's just a really fun song, and you keep humming along with it because it's so easy to do. But yeah, I've been playing that, and that's literally it. But now it's time for my rant when it comes to Spider-Man. Because, oh my god. So I've picked... picked back up reading. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, like that then. So I started reading... See, that's easier to say. I started reading Spider-Man again. And we've talked about this before, probably during the Spider-Man episode. But I've read up until the end of Superior. And then Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3 came out. Which was in 2014. So that's when I stopped reading. And I'm done with the Turtles for now. So I was like, yeah, maybe I'll just... read Spider-Man again. So I looked up a list of trade paperbacks because that's way easier to get than single issues, of course, and also a bit more cheap. And it just helps because it combines a lot of the issues into one story. It's usually just one arc that they do. So yeah, I needed Volume 3, which didn't last that long, like over a year or something, and I could just buy all of them. So I have all these trade paperbacks for Volume 3. Very easy to find and also pretty cheap. I guess here it's a little more expensive because, of course, they have to ship it to... Well, they sell them here, but we pay more than we should, basically, than if you would buy them in America or something like that. So yeah, very easy to get, so I got them all in like 2 weeks or something, and then I was like, well, I'd better just go down the list and get the next one. So that would be the very first trade paperback of Spider-Man Volume 4, which apparently is called Worldwide. And they released them as trade paperbacks back in 2015-16. In 9 parts, so you would be like, okay, I'll just get those. No, they are just not available anymore. And I was like, why are they not available? It was so easy for me to get the ones from 2014. Why can't I get these ones from 2015-16? No idea. Apparently, they re-released the very first 20 issues of Volume 4 in hardcovers, also called Worldwide. So it's 1, 2, and 3 hardcovers. They only have the first 20 issues. Again, those are not available anymore. And there's no other way, no other collections that just have the comics from, like, the actual single issues from Volume 4. And this is something I just absolutely cannot grasp when it comes to American comics. Why don't you just keep printing these? Like, as a European, I just cannot believe that. Like, I collect a few Belgian comics, comics that have been going since the 50s here as well. So, like, that's even way older than these Spider-Man issues I'm looking for now. But if I want the very first issue of that comic, I can just go to the store and get it because they keep reprinting them over and over again. Like, maybe in a new jacket sleeve or something like that, but I can just go to the store and I have it. And for some reason, collecting American comics is literally impossible.
It's hard.
At least for me as a European. And I know that collecting single issues is a big problem. I can see that because they have a limited print and then they move on to the next one. But if you're printing collections in trade paperbacks or hardcover or whatever, why are they not available anymore 3 years later or something? Like,
I think a lot of it comes down to demand. So, like, in America, comic book reading isn't all that popular in America anymore. If people want to, like, have, like, a comic book experience now, they basically look towards, like, what The Walking Dead did, right? Like, the big, like, visual novels.
yeah.
So, like, they either cater to that now, or they cater to mangas. Like, mangas in America is starting to make a pretty big surge now as well. Comic books, though, like, the problem with comic books is that they're starting to release them on the computer, on the internet.
Yeah, sadly.
So, like, for us, it's like, well, why would we go spend $4 on a thing of paper where we can just go read it for free on the internet? So and plus, like I said, like, the popularity of comic books in America has drastically decreased since, the mid '90s. So it's just a demand thing. So, like, when the companies that print, the Marvel, DC comics, whatever it may be, back in 2015, they print them up until the point where there's like, well, no one really wants these anymore, so we're just not going to print them because it's a waste of money if they keep printing them. Obviously, there is a worldwide market, but again, like, what is the demand for comic books in the worldwide market right now? So, yeah, especially with everything becoming digital. So,
yeah, it's just very strange to me. Like, even then, you would think the amount that they would print them would make them very easily available through, like, Amazon or anything else for quite a while.
Yeah.
But nope, they're just gone. And if you look for them on eBay or something, for me, it's unaffordable right now because of the shipping and the custom book. But the prices are also, like, it's 3 times as much as the new price. And here's what like Marvel and Dark Horse Comics and IDW and things like that do offer. You can buy them new on their website, so they would print it for you. But again, it would cost me like 50 euros of shipping just to get a comic book delivered. So
I have that issue with mangas a lot, actually. Like, when I got the Death Note mangas, I'm one of those people that like the individual trade covers. Like, I like the each individual comic than I do the volume stuff. But for mangas, so like you would think it'd be easier for mangas, but actually, like, it's hard for mangas because a lot of times these mangas are long. Like, they're 20, 30 plus, books long.
Yep.
So for Death Note, I knew Death Note had a start and an end to the manga itself, and I wanted each individual manga. But Death Note has been out for a while, and even though it is a very popular anime, it's very hard to find individual mangas for Death Note. So I actually had to go to the volume, so I had to get like the black edition or whatever it was called. And even those were somewhat difficult to find, at least for me as an American.
Yeah, see, that's very weird. Like, those are very easily available here as well.
Yeah.
Like, even the translated or with translated I mean in Dutch, of course, or the English prints. Like, I can go into a comic book store and they just have them all. Like, it's literally no issue at all.
The other one I actually had a hard time finding too were the Zelda ones. So like the Zelda ones are the only ones I would buy the volume books for. And even the Zelda mangas are actually tough for me to find. And it's a video game that's very popular in America. So, but on the flip side, like your comic book stuff, I can literally go into my retro store and they have a whole room dedicated for comic books from the 50s all the way till today. Like all the new releases are up against the wall, and like everything from like the 50s to like the 80s are sorted by year, by brand, by comic in boxes on tables, and you can just sort through. And like there are thousands upon thousands of comic books in that room. So
yeah, like my only hope now is when like not conventions, like expos for comics, like where people are just buying and selling them. If those open back up again, then I can look through those. But otherwise, I literally have no idea how I'm ever gonna find these worldwide, they're called, comics at this point, trade paperbacks. So if anybody can help me out from Europe, please let me know, because this is driving me insane. Like,
yeah, swap meets would be nice to have again.
Yeah.
Like I know. Like the manga stuff is starting to get a little bit better now. Like we have bookstores, like we still have bookstores. I don't know. I'm assuming you all still do too, but we have bookstores still. Like Amazon hasn't eaten everything yet. So like I would go to Barnes and Noble, and they actually have a manga section in the bookstore now. Because that's how popular mangas has started to become in America. The only hard part is finding the manga, A, and then B, like making sure that they have it like on release, because a lot of times here the bookstores will eventually get the manga, but they won't have it on release. Like when I bought Kirby Volume 2, like Barnes and Noble had it, but they didn't have it on release day, so I had to wait like an extra week before I can just walk in and get it. So
still waiting for that one here. I don't know what happened with the European print of the Kirby manga Volume 2 and 3 at this point already, I think, but
I think 3 comes out next month.
Yeah, they keep pushing it back for some reason, so I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, again, if anybody has any trade paperbacks of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, that is, they're all called Worldwide, 1 through 9, I think. Let me know, because I need them. I want to read them, and I don't want to. I don't want to read them digitally. I just can't, because you can easily get them on Comixology, I think it's called, and Kindle. But I don't want those. It's not fun for me. I've read Spidey since the beginning until 2008 digitally, which were like 1,500 comics. It was rough. I never want to do that again, so I just want something to hold.
I don't want to do that at all. So
yeah, I didn't have a choice really. Like buying all of those would cost me like $2 million or something. That would be crazy.
I have some of like the really old Spider-Man comics in a box somewhere.
Yeah, I have like from. Which was, from like 520 up until 700 or so, I believe, in single issues. But like things before that, I just read on my computer, sadly. But yeah, whatever. I at least read them all, so that there's something. Yeah.
I haven't read one since Doc Ock killed Peter Parker. So
Yeah, so before Superior even. So yeah, all right. That was my rant for this episode. It had been bothering me. Every day I'm looking for these comics and I can't find them. It's incredibly frustrating. But yeah, that's it for the rants and what we've been up to. So we're gonna dive into our games in this case for this episode. We're gonna talk about the Fortified Zone series, and we'll be right back after this nice little song. Alright, welcome back everybody. Hope you enjoyed that song. So yeah, today we're gonna be talking about the Fortified Zone series, also known as Ikari no Yousai. And contrary to what many people believe, this game has actually nothing to do with Ikari Warriors. If you know that game, it came out on many systems. Even had 2 sequels, but yeah, that's nothing to do with that game at all. Those were made by SNK, I believe, and these games are made by Jalico. So besides the name kind of being the same, it has nothing to do with it. Ikari itself actually just means anger or fury. In Japan, it was just called Ikari, and in the US, it was Ikari Warriors. And Ikari no Yousai actually means Fortress of Fury, which took me quite some time to find the actual translation, because if I put in Ikari no Yousai in Google Translate, it just said Fortified Zone, which was very funny. But yeah, it's actually Fortress of Fury. That's the literal translation of it.
It's funny.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but I guess somebody put it in there or whatever.
Someone at Google doesn't know how to translate.
Yeah.
So yeah, Fortified Zone. Fortified Zone is the only Ikari game for the Game Boy to come out in America as well too. So the sequel would actually just be a Japanese-only game. Mm-hmm. But Fortified Zone, or Ikari no, Yousai?
Yousai, yeah.
Yousai, nailed it. I did a bunch of Japanese stuff yesterday in the light, so I have a lot of practice now. Released in February 26th of 1991 in Japan, 1991 September of the US, and then in 1991 in Europe. So at least within the same year, it was all released. Developed and published by Jalico. Jalico's a pretty known name at this point in the industry, and a very well-known name in the podcast. So,
yep.
Composed by Tsukasa Tawada, or Honey Tawada. The name may sound a little familiar to you all. If any of you have played Pokemon Cafe Mix, they're responsible for the sound in that game. Harvest Moon 3D, they did the music for. Pokemon XD, the Gale of Darkness, the the GameCube game. They were the music director. Pokemon Coliseum. So this game has been around for a while. So if you want to go way back, Earth Defense Force, Wampum, Druid, Maniac Mansion. This is a very well-known composer in the industry. The genre is a top-down shooter, just like Ikari Warriors.
Yeah, just like Ikari Warriors, indeed. Yeah. And for some people who may have played this game already or will be playing it, it might also look a little bit like the older Metal Gear games, actually.
Yeah.
It has kind of like the same premise to it, and we'll actually come back to that in a little bit when we talk about the boss fights later on. But yeah, it has kind of like a similar setup, and with that I'll dive into the plot here, which isn't as long as EBC here thought it was, because the other 3 pages are literally describing the game. But yeah, here we go with the plot, at least for this one. 2 gliders land silently in a field on a moonless night. The 2 pilots disengage themselves from their crafts, and the shorter of the 2 hardly disturbs the air with a quick hand motion to her male counterpart. They steal away into the blackness. Their mission? Infiltrate the enemy fortress. They make their way through a booby-trapped field, then forge ahead into a heavily patrolled jungle. From there, they negotiate the dangerous twists and turns of underground caves that lead them to their ultimate challenge, the seemingly impenetrable fortress. You'll need all the fortitude you can muster in the Fortified zone.
For the younger audience, that's the Twilight Zone theme.
That's actually not bad to add to the end of that plot thing. There you go, Legs. Those are your instructions for.
Well, we just dated ourselves a little bit there, but you know.
Well, the Twilight Zone, like you had the new season, which sadly got canceled after 1 season.
Oh, what was there? I didn't know they actually brought it back.
Yeah. I forgot his name. Peel. What's his first name? From
Jordan?
Yeah, he made a new season.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that. I was just referring to like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good in my opinion, but somehow it got canceled. Well, whatever. Maybe people are not too interested in those types of stories anymore.
Yeah, they got X-Files and stuff now, so...
What? I guess. That's also not going on anymore.
It's not the same. That's true.
But yeah, that was the plot of Fortified Zone. So yeah, it kind of sounds like 2 spies infiltrating a base, so... That's kind of where the Metal Gear comparison also comes into play for sure. And if you look at the game itself, like it's a top-down shooter, like we said.
Can we call them spies though? Like I know we haven't gotten to the characters yet, but like Masada doesn't wear a shirt at all, so like he's not very well camouflaged. And Mizuki wears like the Daisy Dukes. With like, but they're camouflage shorts, but they're Daisy Dukes essentially. Like,
yeah,
they're not camouflaged. Like, can you really call them spies? Like,
whatever, they're mercenaries or whatever they are. Like,
they're definitely mercenaries.
Yeah, they're just infiltrating a fortress to save the world or whatever. It's all the same.
Yeah. So diving into controls, this game is actually pretty unique with its controls because you can swap between 2 different characters. The A button allows Mizuki, which is the female protagonist of the game, to jump, which if you're into speedrunning, you only use her, basically. And then the other one, Masado, you can use A to swap your gun. B shoots. Start does absolutely nothing. Select actually opens up your menu where you can actually swap between characters. Which I found the easiest way to do that. Mm-hmm. D-pad, it lets you move. And then you can do something up, start, and select to change your characters. But like I said, even though there's a hot combination to hot swap, I've personally found to select and then going into the character selection that way is a lot easier. And a lot less prone to error when I wanted to hit start select A, B. So,
I can't do the fast swap at all. It's like it works 1 out of 15 times for me. So I don't know if it's actually a good way to do it or not. Maybe if you're used to how you have to do the input, but I didn't quite get it.
Yeah, I maybe have gotten it a handful of times, but I always ended up going into the menu to do it.
Yeah.
So we got our characters here. So we have. We'll start with Masado Kunsaki. He is your slow walking, fast shot rate. So that means there's more bullets on the screen at a time, and can use other weapons. He also has a lot more stamina as well too, so he can take a bit more punishment from the enemies.
Nah, that's in the second one, not in this one.
Oh, is that the second one?
Yeah, that's the second
All
one.
right. Well, never mind. He can just get shot as much as Mizuki and die, so the heck with him. Mizuki is your faster walker, slow shot rate, no special weapons, but she can jump, which jumping is actually pretty huge in some parts, especially when the floor starts to fall down. The slower shot rate, I didn't find. The only time I ever found the slow shot rate a problem was with like the faster moving enemies later on in the game. But even then, for the most part, like if you're kind of close to an enemy, like if the bullet's off the screen, you can just shoot again anyway. So if you're one of those pumpers, you can just keep using Mizuki, Makimura throughout the entire game. I personally played Mizuki almost the entire playthrough, so.
Yeah, for me it just depends on the situation. I play it a little bit more like definitely switching out characters constantly when it comes to the first game at least. Because like, yeah, the jumping does come in handy for parts with like conveyor belts and things like that, because you basically skip parts of that with the jump. But otherwise, I think Masado is if better well-rounded because of his different weapons as well that you can sometimes use in other situations. But it's really just a play style you prefer, and luckily you can like switch whatever you want, unless of course one of your characters dies, then you can only pick the other one. But yeah, there are of course some helpful items hidden throughout the stages that can help you along the way. Some enemies and also boxes drop medkits. Depending if you're hurt or not, they will either heal you or they get stored up in your inventory, and you can hold up to 9. And what that does is when you lose all your health on one character, it will automatically refill it. So that's always very useful. And like I said, some enemies, and you can tell which ones, usually it's the turrets, the stationary turrets, they drop them very fast, so you can like farm them up, so you always have a bunch of extra health with you. You can also find a health up item. It's literally a square that says up. Both characters start with 3 health, and they gain 1 extra pack for each HP up, and I think it's up to 8 or 9 or something like that, to get your full health bar, which is really cool if you start the game from the start and keep on playing without ever dying. But sadly, if you would game over, and there are passwords to get you back to a stage, you'd start with 3 health again. So there are always health ups hidden in each stage. So in the later stages, you wouldn't even need them anymore. But yeah, you can get some more health again, but it's harder to max both characters out starting in later levels. You can also find keys. Those are usually dropped by mid-bosses, I would call them, or even hidden away in crates again, and you need those to get through certain doors. Like if you walk up to a door and it doesn't open, which is usually, well, most of them open if you kill all enemies on screen, but if there is one that doesn't open on its own, it's usually because you need a key, but not always. There are other ways to open them as well. Like mentioned before, Masado actually can pick up other weapons. There are a few of those. One is an F, which is a flamethrower, which is probably the most useless one out of the bunch, in my opinion. It's the range of it is like 3 pixels, so you have to get really close to enemies. Of course, yeah, it does a lot of damage, but most enemies where you need to do a lot of damage, they move around a lot, so they will hit you anyway, so it's better not to use it. You got the 3, which is your basic spread shot. The V, which is a machine gun. Like, for shooting in this game, you need to constantly press B to shoot. The machine gun will take care of that, because you can just hold down the A button in that case. You can find a grenade, which is, well, a grenade. I mean, you throw grenades, that's what you do. And then there's the troll one, which you might recognize from Bad Gun, if you've played Bad Gun on Game Boy, which is the S, and that's like a downgrade, because it only lets you shoot 2 bullets at a time. So definitely try to avoid that if you see it. Sometimes you will see a missile that is not a rocket launcher. It actually just replenishes all the ammo of your special weapon. Because yes, all the special weapons have ammo and they run out very quickly. And then there's also a P that you can find, which does not appear very often, but it powers up your standard gun. And it can be picked up actually by both Masado and Mizuki in this case.
Yeah, so going into the stages, we're not going to deep dive into the stages just because the stages are maze-like. It's like, if you've played Metal Gear, it's very similar to that, where you just kind of have to know where to go and just maneuver your way around through the stage, just like collecting things and backtracking a little bit here and there. Yeah. But we can go over the bosses of the stage.
It's also kind of like a Zelda dungeon, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you map out the place until you have found everything. That's basically it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first boss you're going to come across is basically turrets. So you're going to approach this, like, well, fortress, so to speak. It's like a fort. It's not really a fortress, but a fort. And there are turrets in, like, in the corner boxes of this fort. You'll be able to see one on screen, but believe there are 4 altogether. 2 of them are in the back, 2 of them in the front, but since this fort is so big, you can only see one at a time, and the screen does move with you as you walk around. It doesn't do like the shift to the next screen type deal. It does actually like move with you as like a spotlight. Pretty easy fight. The first 2, I would say, probably poses the most threat to you because they are the closest to you, but you can dodge those bullets pretty easily, and you can actually blow up the back 2 turrets without them even being on screen. If you just line yourself up properly with the outer wall of one of the boxes of the turrets that you just killed, you can actually hit the turret from a distance and be out of harm's way completely and actually destroy them off screen. So.
Yeah. Field is also a very good tutorial stage. It is a very short map. Like, if you look at the map itself on your option screen, you can see that it doesn't fill the entire map. Basically, it's only a few rooms. It introduces you to all types of enemies that you will encounter throughout the game, like your normal soldiers, your Jeep soldiers, your little robot dudes that walk around and things like that. So this is really just teaching you how to play the game. It's also a very linear stage where you go into a corner, you see, oh, I need a key here, I have to go this way, get the key, come back and move on. So yeah, it teaches you how to play the game for sure.
Yeah. And then we go into stage 2, or the jungle. You have to face off against a Jeep here. I believe you have to face off against a Jeep in the field as well too. I don't.
There are some Jeeps. Yeah, okay, those are like the mid bosses.
The quote unquote mid boss. Yeah. And they're pretty relatively easy. They start off on one side of the screen. They'll go up and down. You just have to shoot them and avoid the bullets, and eventually they'll go across the screen. You just have to dodge it so it doesn't run you over, and then it'll go up and down, rinse and repeat till you blow up the Jeep. The main boss of the jungle is called the Tank. The Tank is kind of trolly at times. It's not a terribly hard fight. The Tank is exactly what it sounds like. It is a tank, and it has a main turret in the center of it, and it has 2 back turrets in the back that do a 3-bullet spread shot. Basically, what you do is that you just let the tank come down onto the screen, and just hang off to the side and just start laying into those back turrets until they explode. And then once the back turrets have have gone away, then you can start taking out the middle turrets. I think I end up taking out the middle turret before the back turrets in a way, just because of how I played the game. This is the only time that I found the flamethrower to be actually useful in the entire playthrough, because the middle turret can't shoot to the side. It can only shoot a missile from the front, and the side turrets can only shoot from the side. So you have a high probability of not getting hit if you're up close to the tank. So that's why I thought the flamethrower was the perfect weapon for this fight, and it does do a lot of damage at least. So if you can take out if you starting on the left hand side, if you can take out that far back left hand side turret, then you can just swap to your flamethrower and you will be safe the entire fight from there on. So
yeah, and jungle just builds on the previous stage field, basically. It's still very easy to find your way through this, only the map has gotten bigger. There are a few more rooms that you have to go through, but basically it's still a very straightforward stage to get through the end in this case.
Yep. And then we go into the underground caves, which these mid-bosses aren't jeeps this time around. They are these, like, alien crab. They're like the, what are the one-eye things in Zelda called?
Tektites?
Gomas? Tektites. Yeah. Gomas? Tektites? Yeah. It's like an oversized...
Goma the spider. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. It's like either like Goma or like a Tektite or oversized Tektite with crab claws.
Yeah.
Are like the mid bosses for the underground, and then your main boss fight here is a dragon.
Yeah, somehow there's a dragon all of a sudden here. No idea where it came from, but here it is.
And we don't mean like a mechanical dragon or like a dragon tank. We mean an actual dragon. Just out of nowhere. So we have an actual dragon that comes up, and he's going to shoot fireballs at you in a 3 spread shot as well too. You want to hit it in the head because that is its only weak spot. And what it's going to do is that it's going to start at the top of the screen, kind of come down up pretty close, shoot a spread shot. You just want to dodge. It's a pretty easy dodge. The bullets are slow, or the fireballs are slow. I found the grenades to be top-notch for this fight, because when he's up close, you can just lob grenades into his head. And then what he's going to do then, he's going to back up a little bit and charge at you. All you have to do is just move to the side, because his whole body doesn't come down, just his super long neck. Like, he has, like, the neck of a brontosaurus, basically. So he's going to come down, basically, until, like, his head is off-screen. You basically just move to the side and just wait for him to come back up. And as he's backing up, he doesn't attack you at all, so you can just lay into his head as he's backing up. And he just moves side to side on top of the screen. It's a very, very basic fight once you get the hang of it. And then once you've done enough damage to the head, it just blows up, so...
Yeah. Underground caves it features 3 things you will need to learn before tackling the actual fortress. So it introduces walls that you can walk through. You can see where you can walk through, but because you haven't used that mechanic yet, it might seem strange at first. But there are some very obvious walls you can just walk through. It also introduces things that you need to shoot to turn the lights on. I don't know how that works. I would think it's the other way around, like flip a switch to turn the lights on, but you have to destroy something to turn the lights on in this case. And it also introduces the most annoying thing in this game, which is the reverse control, whatever it is, sensor or something. And it does exactly what it says, like suddenly your D-pad is inversed, so you have to destroy that thing before you can walk normal again. This map also has multiple levels. In this case, only 2, but yeah, it's annoying if you fall down a hole because you land back at the start of the cave and you have to move all the way back over again to where you just were to get back. But when I was replaying this, I found out that there is one room where you have to navigate with your reverse controls to shoot down a thing and then go into the door while avoiding all the holes. And the hitboxes on those holes are horrible for some
They're real
reason.
bad.
In that room particularly, I don't know if it. No, it's not like that in any other room.
No.
But apparently there's just another way around, so you don't even have to go through that room. I found that out while playing it yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, it shows you these things that you will need to know before going to the fortress, because again, this is a very linear stage, but it has a part where you can fall back to the start and you have to do it all. Well, not everything because doors are open and things like that, of course, but you have to do part of it again. But it's just preparing you for things to come in the next stage.
Because the fortress stage is long and it's huge. So the mini bosses, what are the walkers called in Metal Gear 5? Are they just called walkers? The two-legged, you know what I mean. The little two-legged like walk.
In 5 they're just called walkers, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So your mid bosses in the first half of this stage, because the stage is kind of broken up into two halves. The mid boss of the first half of this stage is what I like to call the Metal Gear 5 walkers. So it is a mechanical unit that is upright on two legs that is shooting missiles at you. Pretty easy fight, honestly. They kind of just scan the top of the stage and they just shoot missiles down. I think some of them might be homing. Literally just walk up to it and lob a few grenades at it and it'll blow up perfectly fine. The fun part comes when you face off against the quote-unquote final boss of this part of the stage, which is Metal Gear.
It so is Metal Gear. Like, I don't know which one of the Metal Gears, but it is a Metal Gear.
It's like, definitely not Rex. So
yeah, it's a bipedal tank.
Yes,
just to avoid any troubles with Konami, I guess. It's just some bipedal tank.
Yeah. So if you've ever played the old Metal Gear games, you know how like a Metal Gear 1, it had like the bipedal tank that just like stood there and you just lob it with rocket launchers. And then if you played Ghost Babel, you got chased by it, but it still just stood there. So in this game here, it is a bipedal tank that shoots missiles and bullets, just like Metal Gear. It looks just like Metal Gear. So in this one here, what's going to happen is that the Metal Gear actually moves though in this game. So it's going to come from the top of the screen just like any other boss does. And when it comes down, you want to shoot the front of the Metal Gear when the bullets come out. Otherwise, when that turret on the front of the Metal Gear is pushed in, what you want to do is that on the back, it kind of almost looks like back legs, but they're not really legs. It's actually a part of Metal Gear. You want to just start shooting the back of that because that's where the back turrets are for the missiles. Then once you take care of those back pieces of the turrets, you kind of just have to wait for... You kind of just have to wait for this like centerpiece, like it almost looks like an eyeball, to open up and start flashing. Think of like the Technodrome from the original Turtles on NES. You have to wait for the eyeball to open to hit it with Donatello's staff. This one here, you just have to wait for the eyeball to open up and start flashing, and wait for it to walk down. And then you kind of lay into this. After a while, it's going to lose its legs and turn into a flying unit. And it's going to shoot like this like weird wave spread shot straight down and kind of like towards where you are. It's a pretty easy dodge if you stand pretty far away from it, because the bullets, oddly enough, disappear because they do have a range to them. Basically, you just kind of stand a little bit far away, wait for them to start to end off, and just kind of like walk past them and then just shoot into the eye itself again. And then after a while, that eye will just destroy, and Metal Gear will blow up, taking you into the second half of the fortress.
Yeah, you thought it was over, and I thought it was over as well the first time I played this game. But nope, you still have a few rooms to get through, which is kind of a gauntlet of mini bosses, if I remember correctly, right? I just
Yeah,
played
you have to fight. Yeah, you have to fight through the walkers again. Yeah, you have to fight through the walkers again. You have to fight through what's the guy from Short Circuit? Whatever his name is. He pops up kind of in the game a little bit too. He's kind of a pain in the ass to fight.
what's his name again? Now I need to know his name. It's something 5.
Yeah, it's something 5. I can't remember what it is. Johnny 5.
Johnny 5. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to fight Johnny 5, the walker from Metal Gear. And then eventually you get to the final boss of it all, which is a computer, I guess.
Yeah, or a core. Like, it's just a stationary pillar.
Yeah.
I mean,
think of like Star Fox 64. You remember how in Star Fox 64, once you take out those outer posts, you have this giant thing in the center with all these like flashy lights on it? It's almost like that. So when you come into the screen, you are quickly introduced to 2 long legs right in front of you that aren't afraid to reach out and hit you or shoot at you because they are guns. So you want to take them out almost as soon as possible to give yourself room to kind of maneuver around. Otherwise, it does become a little bit of a bullet hell because of it. Once you've taken out the front legs, you can just simply walk to the back. And on the back side there, you're going to see like 3 cylinders, 1 facing you and 2 facing the sides. You kind of just lay into the back cylinders. There'll be like a flashy button that will shoot a bullet out. Once you take care of the back cylinders, then you gotta focus on the front. And the front is the hardest in my opinion because it shoots lasers, but there's not a lot of room in between the lasers to get shots off. So this is where if you've collected a lot of those up power-ups to get your life up, and if you have full health going into this boss fight, honestly, I would recommend getting your machine gun out or your powered up gun and just walking right down the center of that and just tanking the lasers while laid into the final cylinder in the front. Otherwise, what you can do, what I did in my playthrough, was that I was able to time it just right to go in between the lasers, shoot 2 times, move to the side, move back in, shoot 2 times, move to the side. It's longer, but it does work and it is safer as well too. Once you've destroyed the center pillar, the mainframe basically explodes from there, and then you get a congratulations, your mission is complete, into a very nice looking animated cutscene of a fortress blowing up and Mizuki kind of being hobbled off the battlefield with Masado.
Yeah. That takes care of the entire fortified zone in this case. It's only 4 stages. It is not that long of a game if you know what you're doing. But otherwise it might take you like an hour or 2 to get through it the first time you play it. But yeah, it's a very fun game. It's very action-packed. If you're into top-down shooters, like there's millions of these, and not arcade-styled ones. These actually have like a map and things to discover and keys to collect. If you're a fan of old Zelda games, I guess 2D Zelda games, this will be right up your alley. It's just Zelda with guns, I guess.
Essentially, yeah. It's like Zelda. It's like Zelda meets Metal Gear.
Yeah. So it's a very pleasant game to play for sure. What you can say about the game is like the sprites are pretty huge in this one. They're really big. So there's not that much going on the screen at all times. So it's easy to get through it. But the later stages do require you to like memorize where to go, where you have been. Yeah. And take care of a lot of mini bosses that could take down your health. But like I said, there's always a room where there are turrets those small turrets, and you can just farm those for medkits all day long. So it's always a good thing to do that.
The also nice part too is that even though our sprite is large, the other sprites are large as well too.
Yeah.
So there's there's no real disadvantage at all with the big sprites this time around. And honestly, like the bigger sprites actually make the game a lot more fun. So
yeah, it's very nice sprite work for sure.
Yes,
especially because this was 91, which is like the quote unquote third year of Game Boy, but it has a nice visual style to it for sure.
It does, and the music is quite well done in this one as well. So,
so yeah, we're doing this a little bit different than usual when we talk about multiple games, and that's because 1 and 2 are pretty similar, like
very similar.
in a big way. So we're just gonna dive straight into the second game, but we're not gonna be going over the gameplay and the characters again, and like the controls, because they're virtually the same. So we're gonna be talking about like the differences between the previous game and this one, and then just give an overview of the stages again. But yeah, when it comes to Ikari no Yousai 2, this game came out a year later, basically. 221, half a year later, actually, in Japan. At least, because that's the only place it came out, sadly. I don't know why, because you would think the first one did pretty well, so why not do this one? But yeah, they didn't. But again, developed by Jalico and published by Jalico. Apparently, there are different composers for this one. You found, because I couldn't find it.
I have found composers for this one. The composers for this one was actually pretty tough to find. I found that, at least from what I've researched and found for this, composers Yasuyuki Suzuki and Kiyobaka Sungao were responsible for at least the sound for Fortified Zone 2. I couldn't find much about Kiyobaka, but I did find a little bit about Yasuyuki. Yasuyuki did... their first game was Ikari no Yousai 2, so this was the very first game that they actually had done. But for the most part, they've done dominantly Japanese games. Some of the games you may know, Operation Logic Bomb, which we'll very brief touch on later on.
Yeah.
Tale of the Sun, they were the main sound designer. And Monster Kingdom, Jewel Summoner, they were a composer for. But so a lot of these games are pretty unknown, or very much just Japanese exclusives. They were going strong up until 2008. It looks like for audio stuff, and then they kind of just fell off the planet. So, but this is their first game as a game credit for audio. So.
All right. Yeah, I do know that there are some songs from the previous game that are also in this one.
Yeah.
So I guess they just reused some things here and there, but also made some new tracks for it. Well, like I said, this is virtually the same kind of game. So again, it's a top-down shooter, of course. Sadly, I could not find plot because Japanese only. So like even if we have the manual, which I think we don't, I couldn't find it. But as it's virtually the same game, Lex, you can just copy paste the plot that I set for the previous game, but you can change the stage names that I set in that one to Laboratory, Factory, Shelter, and then Fortress, because that's the only difference. I think it's
Moe's Laboratory.
Yeah, it's
laboratory.
It's pretty much the same deal than last game. You're just going through some things to get to a fortress and destroy it. So
yep.
That's it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So like we said, we're not going to go over the controls. We're not going to go over power-up most of the power-ups at all, because it is a almost copy and paste from Fortified Zone 1. But this is where some differences do come into play. So Masado, I want a Y in there. Like Masado just sounds so much cooler. Masado Starts with a bigger health bar, so you can take more hits. Mizuki starts with a smaller health bar, and she's able to jump again. Both characters can have 3 guns from the start: a machine gun, a shotgun, or a grenade launcher, and your shotgun is your spread shot. Some doors can actually be shot open with a grenade launcher. This is actually required through the game. And only med kits can heal you, so you actually cannot collect them this time. And there are keys to collect again. From the start, the maps are a lot bigger in this game, which I would expect from a sequel and from a game in 1992. However, the character sprites are a bit smaller this time around. Not much smaller, but they are reduced a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely put some, well, I wouldn't say more effort into the design of this game, but it feels familiar, but it looks different, which is really cool. Like, is it better than the first one? I don't know. I think it just depends on which one you like more in this case. Like, I wouldn't say it's a actual improvement. It's just a little bit different in this case.
Yeah, I like the boss. We'll get into it more, but I like the boss fights more in this one. But yeah, so in this one here, stage 1, we go into the laboratory, and you're gonna face off against the flamethrower tank. Which, if you think that sounds intimidating, you are wrong.
Yeah.
It is the easiest boss you will ever fight in your life. So it looks cool, at least. It looks awesome. But when you go into this boss fight, you're going to see this giant twin, or like 6 cannon flamethrower tank in front of you. But it doesn't get up, it doesn't move, it's stationary on top of the screen. So already, unlike Fortified Zone 1, this boss just doesn't move at all. It kind of like the boss and stuff just fade into the screen and you guys be ready to go. But with this boss fight, the center like thing opens up and there's a little orb or an eye again. Very similar to the final boss that we just fought in Ikari Warriors Fortified Zone 1. You have to wait for that hatch to open and wait for this ball or this eye to be exposed, and you just start shooting into it, whether it's your grenade launcher, your machine gun, whatever. But while the eye is open, it's also shooting a lot of bullets at you at once. So you had to like kind of swap to the side a little bit to dodge it once the bullets start coming out. Once the bullets start to slow down, the 6 turrets, 3 on each side of you, or 3 of each side of where that container is, start to light up with a little bit of fire on the tips of them, and they're going to extend flames that go all the way down the screen. So you either need to be to the far left, the far right, or right in the center, which ideally is where you would be for this, to not get hit by the fire. It's a rinse and repeat fight, and then once it's all over, the tank explodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this case, not so much of a tutorial stage as it was in the first one. It really throws you right into it. This game is definitely a lot harder from the get-go, especially because the changes they made with the health things. You really have to know what you're facing in the next room to be able to deal with it better. The only thing I can't exactly remember in this one, I know in this one you do not take any damage from touching enemies, but I can't remember if it's the same in the previous one, actually. They might have changed that, so you can, like, run into enemies, or is it the other way around? Now I don't know anymore.
I don't remember.
Yeah. So, yeah, the enemies in this one are, like, harder to deal with, like even the standard enemies. And they do want you to use your different guns in a clever way to get around these enemies. And yeah, of course, in this game, they all have unlimited ammo, so you can just switch between them constantly to give you the advantage depending on which enemy you're facing off against.
Yep. Then we go into stage 2, which is the factory. This boss sucks. This is the train boss. This boss constantly moves, is only hurtable in the center, and it's an absolute bullet storm
Yep.
to dodge. This is, in my opinion, one of the harder bosses in the game, and so far the series. So right away, you get presented with a train. Yeah, it's not the normal train that you would think of with like a steam engine and whatnot. It's not like Lucky Luke train fight. But this one here is you are presented with a train cart that has twin turrets on the ends that shoot missiles straight down the screen, and then in the center you have what kind of looks like the rocket barrage, like from the rocket barrage trucks. If you've played like Command and Conquer and things like that, that shoot a bunch of bullets at you. They kind of like and the bullets like follow wherever you walk. So, and the only place that it can take damage is in the center of the train. So, right away, when you're approaching this fight, you are presented with a ton of bullets. And from here, I found the grenade launcher to be the best weapon for this fight because you can shoot at an angle with it. So, if you're far on the side of the screen, you can still lob a grenade to the side and still manage to get it to the center. The hardest part here is dodging the bullets because you kind of want to be a little close because when you start moving, the bullets kind of actually start to like hook around you a little bit, but you don't want to be too close because then the missiles are going to hit you. So it's a bit of a finding that sweet spot and knowing when to move side by side to dodge it. But once you've figured out the rhythm, because there is a rhythm to the fight, once you have figured out the rhythm of dodging the bullets, the missiles are pretty easy to dodge after that. And then from there, it's just knowing what windows you have to shoot the center of the tank.
Yeah.
Or train, rather.
Train. Yeah, this one always reminds me of, like, one of the bosses in... I think it's Operation C in one of the top-down stages. It's also like three parts of a train coming together, and the middle one shoots, and then there's the turrets on the side. That it reminds me of, or the train fight in Mercs for arcade or Sega, if Genesis, I believe, if you've played that one. But then it's a vertical train and you're on a platform. But yeah, it reminds me of those fights a lot for sure. Yeah, the factory is like the first stage where it becomes apparent that Mizuki really has her has her merit in this game more than in the previous one. I believe I still feel like in the previous game you can play with both characters, but it just depends on your playstyle. But in this one, because the factory starts introducing the conveyor belts again and things like that, if you try to walk over them with Masado, you're gonna have a horrible time. But the moment you switch over to Mizuki, you can just like fly all over the place, really. So in that regard, the game does the different characters a little bit better, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, no, I swap. So, like, in the first Fortified zone, I rarely swapped. Unless I died, I rarely swapped characters. This game, I swapped characters often.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
So.
Just because we didn't go over it, it's a little bit different how to switch characters in this one, which messed me up because I played them both after each other and I kept pressing the wrong buttons. So take some time in between playing the game so you're not too used to how switching characters work. It's the same like you go into the menu, but the menu is start this time, and it's not go to switch, but it's just press select in the options menu. So yeah, it's way different. But yeah, that messed me up a few times for sure at the start.
Then we go into stage 3, which is the shelter. And the boss for this stage is, you guessed it, Metal Gear.
It is Metal Gear yet again.
It is 100% Metal Gear.
Yep.
So, whoever designed Fortified Zone 1 and 2 really, really liked Hideo Kojima. So here we go into the Metal Gear fight, and again, it's another bipedal tank, and this time it kind of almost looks like it has wings, but on each side it has turrets that will eventually shoot missiles at you, and then in the center of it we have this turret that is continually shooting bullets at you in a rotating manner. Basically, as it's shooting at you, it's going to start walking down the screen. All you need to do is walk around the tank either in a clockwise or counterclockwise fashion to dodge the bullets. It's pretty easily to dodge. However, you still want to hit the thing in the center, as that is where its weak point is. Once it's done shooting its bullets at you, it's going to walk to the top of the screen, and those little winged turrets I talked about are going to start shooting missiles straight down the screen. I found if you just stood in the center, kind of close to Metal Gear, you won't get hit by them at all. And as soon as that middle hatch opens up again, you can lob some grenades into it to destroy it. Once you've done enough damage to it, Metal Gear will explode, and you will move on to Stage 4.
Yeah. I can't really remember if there's any particular things about this stage. Again, just like in the previous game, this is where multiple floors are coming into play and things like that. So it's getting harder to navigate through everything and finding all the correct things. And again, here comes the dark rooms where you have to destroy the thing before you can even see where you're going. They are a little bit more dastardly in this one, though, because they're... I think no, that's in the next stage. Maybe? No, that's in this stage. Like, there are a few walls you have to walk through, but you can totally not see by just looking at the wall that you could walk through them. So what you have to do is, like, go into the next room, see that there actually is an opening on that side, and then you have to realize, oh, that's actually a fake wall I can go through. So it's a little bit more, hidden in this game than it was in the previous game to navigate through some of the sections.
Yeah. The shelter stage is kind of an interesting stage. So it does have multiple stories to it, and you actually have to do things in a very particular order to get through it. However, there are hints in the stage as to where to go and where hidden walls are. If you look very closely onto, like, the floor, sometimes the floor actually uses texture to make an arrow.
Right, it's this stage.
To tell you where to go. So it's actually a pretty interesting stage. Moving into stage 4, which is the final stage, and again, in true Fortified Zone fashion, the stage is broken up into 2 parts. So I believe you are introduced to these enemies in the previous stage as well too, but the quote-unquote mid-bosses in this game, or in this stage, is this giant robot-suited thing that is kind of slow, but it shoots explosive rounds at you.
Yeah.
And it goes to your last known position, and they are a bullet sponge, and they take forever to kill. Mm-hmm. And the explosions are a pretty wide explosion that can hit you even if you don't think you were close to it. So be weary of them. They kind of suck to fight, but they will die eventually. So here we face off against a Gyrocopter. If you can recall in Fortified Zone 1 when Metal Gear turned into a flying unit, pretty similar idea here again. And you're gonna realize that there is a pattern to this. The center is the weak point of this boss. This is one of the coolest looking bosses though in the game. They did a phenomenal job making this boss look cool.
Yeah.
So it is a gyrocopter. On each side are fan blades that keep the helicopter afloat, and they are very well animated. And then in the center we have a turret that is shooting. I think it's lasers or missiles eventually that come at you. But in the center we have these grouping of 4 little turrets that shoot bullets at you. These are the most dangerous part of the fight because the gyrocopter almost traps you to the bottom of the screen. So when it comes in, it wants to get real close and personal to you on the bottom of the screen, and it doesn't give you a lot of wiggle room to dodge bullets. But again, your grenade launcher is going to be your best friend in this because you can just lob it diagonally into the center if you're caught too far to the side. The hitboxes are pretty lenient with these boss fights, as you don't have to hit them directly in the center. You can kind of hit them off to the side because the explosion animation hitbox will actually go into the actual hitbox of the boss themselves too. So you definitely have some leniency when fighting these bosses. But this boss isn't hard per se, but it can cause a little bit of anxiety because of how close it will get to you. But admire this boss fight because the sprite work is gorgeous on this fight. Anything you want to add to the gyrocopter stage?
Well, the stage is not over yet, of course, because
it's not.
It's still stage 4 in the Fortified Zone game. So nope, this is not the final boss. And truth be told, when it comes to this stage, the bosses aren't really the issue.
No,
like stage 4, the fortress again. In this case, like it is a brutal stage to get through. Yes. Mostly because of the way you have to handle health management in this game. There are only like 3 or 4 medkits that you can grab. The entire stage is riddled with mid-bosses, ranging from that grenade thrower to some stupid turrets that lob grenades at you and things like that. Yep. Like, it is a very hard gauntlet to even get to the bosses, and basically the bosses are more of your chill type in this stage. Yeah. It's also a pretty huge maze. I think it's 3 stories again that you have to go through. You have to blow up floors to drop down. You have to go through hidden walls you can't see. You have to destroy all enemies in certain spots to open a door somewhere completely different. Like, this is what you've been training for throughout these 2 games, basically.
Yes.
And in my opinion, this is my least favorite stage, just because there's so little health to help you get through it, sadly.
So I had that exact issue in my playthrough, and I can go over this a little bit later. There is a way to farm health in the final stage. It sucks to do because it takes forever, but you can do it.
Okay.
And I know, and I figured out how to do it in my last attempt of beating the game. So, when you go through the stages, there are turrets like up against the wall, much like in Fortified Zone 1, that just shoot regular bullets straight down, and you just have to time it to walk past them, basically. If you kill those turrets, they have a high chance of dropping medkits.
See, that's something I never saw when I was playing through the game. So
yeah,
that's interesting.
They have a high chance of dropping medkits, and if I remember correctly, things can respawn in Fortified Zone 2.
In some rooms, yeah.
In some areas, yeah. So you have to find the room that respawns. I believe it's pretty early on in the final stage, but there are 2 bullet turrets that do respawn. That you can just keep shooting over and over again to get medkits dropped. Now, they're not going to drop a medkit every time you kill them and respawn them. They're going to drop a medkit like once every 5 or 6 kills, but you will get a medkit from them. So make sure if you see turrets throughout your playthrough and you need health, kill them. They actually have a high chance of dropping a medkit versus a regular enemy on the screen. So
that is good.
That is my tip when playing Fortified Zone 2, because health management in this game is crucial.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are in the second half of Stage 4, the Fortress, and again, we are fighting Metal Gear, and this is the traditional Metal Gear, because this one doesn't move at all. It sits against the wall, and it just shoots missiles. This one, the sprite work for this is phenomenal. It looks so good. So the way it looks right now, so you look at it, it's an in development Metal Gear as well too, because this is only the top half of the Metal Gear. We're still waiting for the legs, apparently. So on the sides, we have like what looks like arms, and these arms are shooting bullets at you. Now, mind you, the bullets don't come out terribly quick, but they home onto you. So you kind of have to know where to move and how to move in this. As we go in more into the center, we have two big turrets side by side of the center that shoot missiles or rockets out. And these missiles or rockets just go straight down the screen from here. So there are some damaging parts that you can do to this boss fight. Typically, you're going to try and aim for the center, as if you hit the center, everything takes damage. So there's a fun little fact with this fight. If you have full health, you can tank this fight. You can't tank a missile, but you can tank the bullets because you have what is called invincibility frames. And since the bullets hit you at the exact same time, you don't take double damage. You can just take single damage while fighting this fight. So, a tip you can do with this fight is once the rocket phase is over, is immediately run to the center of the screen and just start lobbing your grenade launcher into the center of the Metal Gear while the bullets are hitting you if you have full health. And if you time everything correctly, you will end the fight with 2 health. And you can go from there. Or you can swap over to your other character who may have full health as well too and just go ham. Otherwise, you can target the arms and take out the turrets one by one and then focus on the center as well too. But then you're going to have to worry about rockets continually being launched. So you're going to have to rely on your skill of diagonal shooting to dodge that, because you really can't stand in the center when the rockets are going out, because the rockets actually stagger themselves when they're going down, and you will risk the chance of getting hit in the center upon doing so. But once you've taken out the center of that, you have beaten the game. You get a congratulations, your mission is complete. You don't get a fancy little animated cutscene this time, but instead you get Mizuki and Masado standing tall on top of a rock, and a staff roll underneath of it.
Yeah, and that marks the end of the amazing adventures of Masado and Mizuki. They will never be seen again in another game, sadly.
True.
Yeah. So yeah, those were the 2 Ikari no Yousai games. They are amazing games, especially for the time they got released in like 91 and then like half a year later in 92, basically. They translated this concept very well, and like I said, it's like kind of like Metal Gear, kind of like Zelda. It's a very cool top-down shooter, and it mixes those genres perfectly well into a very enjoyable game for sure. And I think everybody should definitely check out these games if they have the chance. Fortified Zone is easily available anywhere. And I think they're also on DS, 3DS. But does that shop still exist? I know they're on...
I have no idea.
Yeah, I forgot. But I know they were on the 3DS, both of them. If I remember correctly, to be played. And otherwise, a copy of Fortified Zone is easily findable. Like, I found mine for like $5 back then, but now it's probably a little bit
it's probably
pricier.
$20 now. Yeah.
The second one, I don't know if I have that one actually. I might have.
I don't have the second one. I have the Japanese. I have the first Fortified Zone in English and Japanese.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know. But yeah, definitely check out both of these games. They're really cool. The second one definitely is the harder one out of the 2. Because the way health works in that one. But yeah, you should definitely play them. Maybe not back to back, like, again. Wait a moment, because otherwise you're gonna screw up the controls. But yeah, these are 2 amazing games, and yeah, sadly the second one only came out in Japan. Not many people know these games, weirdly enough. Was a nice idea
fun,
to... Yeah. It was a very good idea to do an episode about these for sure. With that, we're gonna take another short break with another song, and after that, we'll cover the cover art and some trivia and our thoughts about the games a little bit more in depth and things like that. So enjoy the song from the second game, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that song from the second game. Let's dive into the cover art. Or covers arts? Cover arts. Let's take a look at all the covers. There we go.
So start with Fortified Zone 1. Start with the Western release for it. You know what? So just the art style in general, it reminds me of like the old like 70s and 80s like Western book covers. I don't. You may have had them in Europe, maybe not, but in America we would get Western romance books were super popular amongst like grandmas and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And the cover art for Fortified Zone looks very much like how the cover art would look on those books as well too, like hand drawn with like kind of like dungy like painting style to like show texture, and it looks like super romantical. Like even though this guy's holding a giant machine gun, like the man is in front of the woman and showing that his brawn and strength, while the woman is trying to be more feminine while holding an Uzi and this, that, whatever. It kind of resembles that a little bit in terms of the art style. But the art style for the Western was actually kind of cool. So like going from the top down, in the far background we have this like giant mountain that is kind of layered. It almost looks like a fortress a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then it goes into like the jungle and then in the field. So it actually has layers of what the levels that you play through coming from the background towards the foreground. And as we get to the foreground, at the top we have Fortified Zone in bright yellow and black coloring wrapped in barbed wire. And then below that we have Masado and Mizuki. Mizuki behind Masado holding a Uzi in a jean jacket and very short jean shorts. And of course she's blonde because that's just how it was in America. And then in the very foreground we have Masado, no shirt on, with a bullet belt going across his chest, holding basically a light machine gun with a grenade launcher. And jeans, just looking off into the distance with a very aware face.
Yeah,
almost looks like a very young Chuck Norris.
Yeah, like a Delta Force movie cover or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to see, like, I know there are some books out there here and there that like have art, like the complete picture that they cropped for boxes and things like that. Would love to see like what the entire drawing or painting or whatever it is looks like, because it's really cool. Like it looks like a cover of for an 80s action movie, just like Delta Force or something like that, but then instead of real actors, of course, on the cover, like just drawn covers. You could argue that they kind of look like Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor in the background or something from Terminator 1 if they were in a jungle shootout or something like that. But yeah, I like this cover a lot. It's
I do too.
I mean, I always like these ones that are like really nicely drawn because the details on this drawing are like absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's a really good cover for the Western release, at least. But it definitely took inspiration from the Japanese one, which is technically the same, but then drawn in 80s anime style. Or late 70s, early 80s anime style, where they were still like, if you look at anime nowadays or manga nowadays, it really has that very typical Japanese style to it in how they draw characters. But when it comes to like very early manga and anime series, they would usually draw them more like Western styled. It definitely shines through on the Japanese cover. And yeah, it's basically the same because like it has the mountain in the background and you can see like what I guess is the top of the fortress coming out of it at the top there. You have both characters standing in the front again. Completely in the front is the male character. Now because I don't have the things here. Masado. Yeah, so Masado is in the front. He's looking at the screen. Again, he's holding his light machine gun with a grenade launcher with the gun belt over him. Here he's wearing camo pants, basically. Still shirtless, of course, because that's how he is. He doesn't do shirts. And then you have Mizuki in the background. Same dreads, actually, than in the other cover. But
this time she's holding a pistol, though.
Here she's holding a pistol, yeah. And behind them you can see tanks and army men and things like that. On this cover she looks a little bit more like Scully than Sarah Connor, actually.
She does, yes. Yes, she does.
I wouldn't say it's Fox Mulder in the front, though.
No.
Way too much muscles for that. But yeah,
he almost looks like one of the guys from like Fist of the North Star, like build-wise.
Yeah. See, that's the style I was referring to, indeed. Like, if you look at Fist of the North Star, at least the old movies, like those are very much more Western-styled characters than what they have right now. And going into the style of Ikari no Yousai 2, you can see the difference, what I mean with early anime and newer anime, at least 90s anime. Like, these look a lot more like Japanese characters than anything. So yeah, again, you have both characters in the front, basically still wearing the same outfits as they had before. Same guns, even. Like, they still are holding the same guns. And in the background, you have this nice machine tech. Yeah, it is kind of a Metal Gear, but also not. It's like a robot, basically.
It's the end boss.
It is the end
of
boss
the game.
Yeah.
The funny part, the part I love about Fortified Zone 1 and 2 box arts is that Mizuki looks like a complete badass in the second one, and she looks like the sorry if this comes out wrong, but like the scared, like, not worthless, but like the one that like you have to protect type person. In the first box art, in the second box art, she comes off as she's the one protecting Masado, because she's the one like diving into action. Masado looks like he lost about 100 pounds of muscle and went about from 40 years old to like 13 years old.
Yep.
So yeah, Mizuki, you know, like the roles like reversed basically in the box art for me. Like, Mizuki looks like the person you need to protect in the first box art. And then Mizuki in the second box art looks like she's the one protecting Masado and just like going into action. So
yeah, I love all these box arts. Sadly, the scan of the Japanese one for the first one is kind of crappy, but but yeah, I love all these covers. It's comic book style, like, of course I will love it.
Yeah, no, like the second box art is that like your stereotypical Japanese anime style, right? But there's a little bit less going on with this one. Like this one here, you can see Masato and Mizuku up front with their guns. Masato looks like he might be shooting his. And then in the background, you have the final boss of Fortified Zone 2. Just big chill in there. I do like the Game Boy and everything else on top of the box art. It's actually really hard to see because it blends in so much with the actual coloring of the box art. But if we go down to where it says Ikari no Yousai, whatever it's called in Japan, Fortified Zone 2, the the wording actually stands out, even though it's like the same yellow and gold kind of throughout the entire box art. They outlined it and shadowed it, so it super stands out, and it's like one of the first things that your eye like gets drawn to. It's actually the flow of the box art is actually very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's the box arts.
Yep, that's it. We have some trivia for the games.
Yep.
Both games, at least the Japanese versions, have only the Japanese versions have like a password that you can enter. There's a lot of different ones, but there's like some that changes the sprites of your characters into like chibi character sprites, and they look funny. It's fun to play. With
Mizuki shoots hearts instead of bullets.
Yeah, so it's super Japanese, of course. But, it's fun.
But yeah, that passcode only works on Japanese versions of the game, and the reason I know this is because when newer speedruns were being submitted for the game, people were putting in the chibi password, and there was a lot of conflict on Twitter as to whether or not they were submitting a ROM hack. And I said, no, they are submitting the Japanese version of the game with the chibi passcode. If you would like to try it yourself, here is the code. Play the Japanese version with this code, and you will have that exact chibi sprite. So these only work on the Japanese version. The Western's releases do not have that that chibi, or it doesn't. The chibi passcode does not work with it.
All right. Yep. Also, there is a third game in the series, which is actually just called Ikari no Yousai again, so no 3 or anything. But here in the West, whatever.
Here in the West.
Here in the West. In the US and in EU, it's actually known as Operation Logic Bomb for the Super Nintendo. If you want to check that game out and you have a Nintendo Switch Online subscription, hopefully the $20 one and not that expansion pack bullshit they just released, you can check it out on the Super Nintendo. What is it called? Whatever. It's in there.
The Super Nintendo, like, virtual console thing. It's actually a pretty fun game, and it takes place after Fortified Zone 2, but you don't get to play as Masato and Mizuki. You actually get to play as an anonymous soldier codenamed Hero in the Japanese version, and his codename is, like, Agent Logan in the Western release of it. But it still very much plays pretty similar to that of Fortified Zone. It's a very cool game. I would very much recommend.
Yeah, I checked it out a little earlier today, actually. I didn't get very far because it's hella hard.
Super hard.
Yeah, and you only have 3 lives, but I'm definitely gonna play through it because I was enjoying it. The only thing I didn't really enjoy was the constant cutscenes that you go through.
Yeah,
but
a lot of cutscenes.
Yeah, besides that, it definitely fits into the series, but it's a little different than these Game Boy versions, I would say. But yeah,
it's definitely a bit different.
Yeah,
it's a bit different because you have like these you have like a special suit to like track your nervous system and like heat sensors and stuff like that. It's a pretty more in-depth game, obviously, for a Super Nintendo game, but definitely worth a playthrough.
Yeah, and it's another one that's like I never heard of, like Operation Logic Bomb. I've never heard of that game, but I knew it was a sequel to this like a few months back, and then I actually knew it. But I don't know if a lot of people know the game, but there it is available on Switch, so go check it out. Some very random trivia that I found. So there is an Irish thrash metal band called Gamma Bomb. Gamma? I would say Gamma.
Gamma Bomb.
Gamma. But yeah, they have an album called Survival of the Fastest. And there is a song on there called Fortified Zone, and it's actually based on the first Game Boy game.
That's cool.
Yeah. So go check that out. It's Gamma Bomb, so like GAMA bomb. Just type it in YouTube. Fortified Zone. It's pretty good song actually. Like I was expecting it to be more thrash metal than it actually is. Like I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, it's actually based on the game. So, and it came out in 2002, so it's not a song that came out when the game was released or anything.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right, so now we have reviews for the game. So I actually have some reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to find a little bit of them. The games themselves ranked medium, like middle of the road, with the exception of Operation Logic Bomb, which if we want to include that with the trilogy, that one actually was a bit higher. That was the highest scoring of the three games. Fortified Zone in itself scored about a 3 out of 5 in most of the places that I could find. A lot of this is Japanese review, so I have no idea what they say. Even the translator did a poor job translating. But from what I can see from various like magazines and stuff, Fortified Zone 1 ranked about a 2.5 or a 3 out of 5 stars, while Fortified Zone 2 ranked around a 3 to 3.5 star out of 5. Operation Logic Bomb would be a 4 out of 5. So
yeah, I would definitely rank them higher myself.
I would too. Yeah.
But yeah, whatever. Yeah, I have a few here. Like on Moby Games, there sometimes are like critic reviews. These are all older ones from 91 and 92 at least for Fortified Zone, that is. And it goes from like between 60 and 80 out of 100. So it kind of depends. And then there's like a more recent one, which is also 11 years ago, that has a 3 out of 10. It's like, what? It's like, I know it's a German review, but yeah, it was about the 3DS version. I don't know.
Yeah. I would rank the games higher, but yeah. But speaking of thoughts and history, we'll start with you, Mo, on your go at the series.
Yeah. So I don't have an actual history with these games. Like I never knew about them when I was a child or anything. I just came across them playing games for portable pleasure. It's been a few years though. I think it's like 3 years ago that I played the first one, and then picked up the second one not too long after that. For me, I prefer the first one, because I feel like it's a little bit more balanced than the second one, especially when it comes to that final stage where you really, really have to know what you're doing to get through it. And yeah, the biggest problem with the second one comes from the health management, whereas in the first one you kind of can cheese it, if you want to call it that, by having enough health packs. But yeah, I don't know. What I like better from the second game is like you have the weapons available to you at all times, so it makes it a little bit interesting, more interesting to do fights. But yeah, besides that, they're virtually the same games, and they should just be played together, really, because yeah, they're just fun games to play through. Yeah.
I don't have a direct history with the Fortified Zone games. I actually played Operation Logic Bomb as a kid. I remember renting it twice. Because I liked the cover art. That was the only reason I ever rented it. was because I liked the cover the first time because I liked the cover, and then the second time, like when you rent a game, you only have it for like 2 days basically, and as like a 7-year-old, this 2 days is not enough time to beat a game. So I rented it again, and I still didn't beat it as a kid. I ended up beating it like 20 years later. But I never knew at that time that there were that Fortified Zone even existed, nor would I have ever have known that Fortified Zone and Operation Logic would have been, a part of one another. So, so I have played Operation Logic before, long time ago. Never knew that there was a tie between them, so I actually have no history at all with Fortified Zone. When I initially started to play them or look at them, I saw the name and I saw like the cover art and I saw like the first 30 seconds of gameplay and immediately translated it to Ikari Warriors for the NES. So I avoided the game at all costs because I have a lot of history with Ikari Warriors. I pressed ABBA a lot in my life. And I didn't want to play the Game Boy version of Ikari Warriors. I'm sorry. But eventually got to the point where I was looking for new speedruns back when I was very active in the speedrunning community. I was looking for a new speedrun, and I remember John Carlos and Author Blues playing Fortified Zone co-op at a GDQ. And I was like, oh, man, this game could be kind of cool. Because the game is co-op. The game has 2 players. And you can play as Masato and Mizuki at the same time in co-op, which is actually super hella cool. So I watched them play, and I was like, oh, this game looks pretty interesting. So I started learning the first Fortified Zone as a speedrun, and realized that it's not Ikari Warriors for the NES at all. But it's a very interesting game. And then so I sat down one night for Game Boy Adventure, and I played through Fortified Zone and 2 back-to-back like Mo did. And I played as Chibi style Mizuki throughout the game too, because I wanted to shoot hearts at people. I thought the games were very fun. I loved the soundtrack, especially to the first game. I did prefer the first one over the second one as well. I just thought the first one felt more polished and more complete, because I felt aside from the health management in the final game, I thought the unlimited bullets kind of took away from the strategizing of the actual game itself. Because in the first game, like, you didn't have to super worry about your health, but you always had to worry about your ammo. Your standard gun had unlimited ammo, but your specialty guns had limited ammo. And if you could still beat the game and beat bosses with your standard gun, but it took forever. So you always wanted to keep in the back of your mind, like, I want to keep this ammo for the boss coming up, or if I ever get into like a sticky situation, I can flip over to this ammo. I want to make sure I have some ammo for the special gun. Meanwhile, for like the second game, you didn't need to really think about that at all. Like, mind you, the second game was balls to the walls harder than the first one, in my opinion. You didn't have to like really strategize ammo. You just had to more strategize your health. So you could kind of cheese some of the rooms too, because you could clip some of the enemies up against the wall and just hit them with the explosion of the grenade. So it kind of took away a little bit for me with that, because I'm one of those people that like to like preserve ammo and just like strategize like my next move going forward. I like to be like 2 steps ahead of the game where I am, versus like I have 1 hit point. I need to walk into this room and like not die. So I did prefer the first one over the second one, but with that said, both of them are still very fun games. I personally like the sprite work in the second one a lot more than the first one. But I like the gameplay more of the first one than the second one.
Yeah. Yeah, it has a little bit for whatever you are looking for. Just cool that there are 2 very similar games, but still, like, have things between and that set them apart, for sure.
Yeah. Going into our itty-bitty speedrunning section here, I guess we can call it. There is speedruns for the first the first Fortified Zone. I already lost the tab. There it is. World record holder Atraz with a time of 12 minutes and 4 seconds. Second place is CFB with a 12:32. These are pretty old records. The most recent run is from Smart Alec 9 months ago. Atraz's record is 4 years ago. Meanwhile, CFB's run was from 6 years ago. So this is a pretty old board with some pretty old runs to it. Something very interesting with this as well, too, is that the speedrunning version of, or the game that you want to use, the version of the game that you want to use for speedrunning is the US and EU version of the game, because it presents a glitch where you can actually jump and walk through certain walls of the game. So what you typically do in the speedrun is you play as Mizuki, because she can jump. So as you transition into a room, none of the obstacles are loaded in yet, which gives you a pretty big opportunity to jump into them. So as the screen is starting to transition and load in, you use Mizuki to jump basically into those obstacles and walk out of them. So, as for Fortified Zone 2, it looks like Mo couldn't either. I could not find any speedruns for Fortified Zone 2 at all. Nope. So free world record for anyone that wants to go for that. However, there are speedruns for Operation Logic Bomb.
Yeah, I would imagine that. Yeah, it's weird that the second one doesn't have any runs, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it is a bit weird, but yeah. So that's the little short speedrun section that we have, and since I have a little bit of experience in the run, I gave you what I know about it. The gist of it is Mizuki reigns supreme in the first run. So never let her die and you'll do fine. But yeah, so with that, we're going to take another quick short break. And when we come back, we will talk about some community events coming up, any listener questions that may have for the podcast and for this episode, and of course, our very, very scripted outro. So stay tuned. So community events coming up here. This one's actually going to be really easy for me because I just did this yesterday. So community events coming up. We have the Tiny 10, which would have already happened by the time this episode comes out. So congratulations, whoever won the Tiny 10. Hope you enjoyed Wayne's World. Also, a marathon that is already going to be out by time, or done by time this is coming out, is that our friends over at Retro Gaming Live TV has put on a marathon to feed the children, and I submitted 5 games. I don't know. I'm still waiting for a schedule to come out, so I submitted Sailor Moon, Barbie Game Girl, Squidlet, Kirby Stream Line Extra Mode, and Trip World. So all of Mo's favorite games. I really hope Sailor Moon and Barbie get in.
Probably. Knowing RGL, those are the ones that are getting in.
Sharif and I are just going to have a Sailor Moon Barbie segment. Yeah. It's going to be fantastic. But we do have some other things coming up here. So my friends at Power Up with Pride will be putting on a marathon. I literally just did this yesterday, and I forgot when they're doing it. You would think I would remember stuff. December 3rd. I don't even know when this episode is slated to come out anymore.
Around that time.
Okay.
Let me see. The 4th. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
or the 5th. I don't know.
Yeah, so as this episode is released, Power Up with Pride will be firing up their Winter Pride Marathon, starting on December 3rd and ending at the end of the day of December 5th. Looks like around 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. A few Game Boy games to look out for. Speaking of Sharif, he will be doing Barbie Fashion Pack games for the Game Boy Color. Tetris Blast will be in the marathon on Sunday, December 5th, along with a locked game of Kirby's Dream Land. And if you're into the GBA stuff, Metroid Freeze Flame, Zero Mission, Fusion, and Amazing Mirror will also be presented on Sunday as well. With that, we also have Games Done Quick, AGDQ 2022 coming up. I already vented about this in my light, but they will be going on January 9th through January 16th with only one Game Boy game, and it's Ultraman Ball.
Yeah, which is a great game, but...
It's a good game, ran by a phenomenal person. I love Gygus Blues.
Yep.
He's my roommate for SGDQ. Gygus Blues is an amazing human. Go follow him. Go watch his stuff. But it's not that GDQ has a lack of Game Boy submissions. I look at the submission list every time it's open, and there are tons of Game Boy games that get submitted. Unless you have your normal Pokemon, your Kirby's, your Marios. But there are tons of other Game Boy games that get submitted, and they only choose one. And it's, at least this time around, it's Ultraman Ball and not Dragon's Lair, but...
Yep.
Come on, GDQ.
Yeah, it's always a disappointment.
Just come on, GDQ. Just can we just have a Game Boy block? We've had one Game Boy block back in 2016.
Yeah.
Can we have another one? It's been a while. Like, please? Pretty please? What else we got going on here? We have Midwest Speed Fest, which is going to be quickly approaching as well, too. They actually just released their schedule yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, I believe it was. So, Midwest Speed Fest is a in-person event where I live, basically. It is literally like 15 minutes away from me. They're doing a Midwest Mini Fest sometime soon, and they'll be doing here it is, Midwest Mini Fest, December 11th, which is a 40-hour speedrun event in support of children's cancer. So they'll be doing some good charity work there as well. That's all I got for marathons.
Yeah, much to look forward to, and some that have already passed.
Some that have already gone.
Yeah, looking at listener questions, none really, but Lex has some things just to say, I guess, so we can mention those. She only just noticed that the logo has the barbed wire thing. Yeah, if you don't look at it closely, you can definitely not see it, but yeah. And she likes the speedrun a lot.
Yeah, the speedrun's actually pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I know we had it in Tiny 10 sometime, and people really liked playing that game. And yeah. And she likes the two protagonist thing. Yeah, you don't see that very often in Game Boy games.
That's true.
Another one, yeah, we haven't talked about that. Maybe we should in the future, but Tekken Fight is another one where you can switch between characters. That's a pretty good game as well. Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much it for listener things. But yeah, because I mostly think that people don't know these games anyways, that's probably why.
The funny part of us choosing Fortified Zone 2 was that we timed it eerily well with Hero and Legs. Because like Legs was just getting started playing Fortified Zone 1 as we announced this episode. And I believe Hero was going into either 1 or 2 as well.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
He just finished it.
So like we eerily we because like it was my decision to do Fortified Zone this time around. And I was like, we should do Fortified Zone and I'm like, we should do them both at the same time because like the second one is literally the same as the first game, so it doesn't make sense to have two different episodes about it. And then when we announced, they're like, "Oh, I'm playing Fortified Zone. I'm playing Fortified Zone too." I was like, "Oh, well,
good timing."
There'll be some episodes about it." So, yeah, so that was kind of fun. But then we have our awesome scripted outro.
Yes.
Next. This is the most scripted outro that you will ever encounter in your life. And by scripted, I mean there are no notes for this at all, except for the wireframe that we built 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So, again, thoughts and suggestions by you all about the podcast are always greatly welcome. Always looking for feedback. Always looking forward to making the podcast a better listen for you all. I would say probably within the last year, our podcasts have definitely gotten more giggly and a lot more friendly in terms of atmosphere and a lot less narrated and strict, which in my opinion I think is a better listen overall, and we still get the information out there. So you can find me, eBloodyCandy, on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find our awesome, wonderful producer, SprintingLegs on Twitch and Twitter, Legs on YouTube, and make sure to go check out Horror Project website, SprintingLegs.com. Mo, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, probably in that descending order when it comes to content. all/Moelle, which is MOELLEUH. If you do not want to type in all of these things and just want to click on something, of course we just have our website. This is gameboy.com, where you can just find all our socials very easily by clicking on the little icons we added.
True. Speaking of our website, you can also find all of this next information on the website as well. We do have a Patreon, where after $20 a month, I believe it is, Mo and I will actually start doing these episodes live on stream, so you guys get to witness our fantastic breaks of me waiting for Mo to let his cat out, get water, whatever it may be. And I get to sit here and I hum and whistle and I talk to Legs. So that's where some of the outro stuff comes from. Let's see here. Patrons also have, or patrons, I think.
Yep.
Is that what they're? Patrons,
yeah.
have exclusive premiere access to our Haunt Hunter project as well too. So Mo and I have put on a new series called Haunt Hunters, where we play through horror-inspired video games, with the semi-recent release of Silent Hill Origins on Halloween. Our patrons now have access to my playthrough of Yamawari Night Alone on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patrons are also linked into our Discord, so you will have access to various things at our Discord, including bloopers and some behind-the-scene things, and also the podcast notes. If Patreon is not your thing, and you still want to support the podcast monetarily, we understand. Patreon, subscription-based. Everything in the world is subscription-based nowadays, right? Like you have Netflix, Twitch, Twitter even has a subscription thing now, I think. So, everything is subscription-based. If subscription stuff isn't your thing, we do have a PayPal. However, we can't tie PayPal into Discord just because that's just how life is. So if you did donate to us or have donated to us with PayPal, please let one of the three of us know. We want to thank you in some way for monetarily supporting our podcast. To keep selling out, we also have a merch store. We've semi-recently have opened a merch store back in, I believe, May or June of this year, where you can go and buy a very nice quality t-shirt of your choosing. Their shirts are nice, and they're not just some weird off-brand name that you would just find on the side of the road. They're actually name brand shirts. The 2 shirts that I have of our podcast are made by Hanes. I know there's Gildan, so you don't have to worry about that type of thing. I've washed my shirts probably 3 or 4 times by now because I have so many shirts that it's hard to go through the cycle of wearing them all. But they haven't shrunk yet, and the print is still fully intact and vibrant as the day that I got it in the mail. And also, we have coffee cups. An funny story here. Mo didn't want to have coffee cups on the store. And I wanted him to put coffee cups on the store because I wanted a coffee cup. So he put a coffee cup up on the store, and I got one. Come to find out, we sold more coffee cups when other people wanted them. And then the other day at work, one of my coworkers that actually listens to the podcast found out that we had a merch store, and they bought a coffee cup. So it was a pretty good idea to put a coffee cup up on the merch store. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it comes from my not coffee minded lifestyle because I just don't drink coffee. So yeah, I will never think of a mug. So yeah.
I don't use my mug. It sits on a shelf next to all of my Game Boy stuff.
Right.
But I have one. Yeah. And other people have one.
True.
I mean, there's nothing special about the guy. It's just a coffee mug.
Yeah. just oh boy. Yeah. So this shirt is actually available in 3 colors. So there's the green one, there's the dark gray one, and there's the light gray one. So there's a little bit of choice there for sure. And if you're wondering, like, what's the deal with the US and the EU? Can I order it without having to go through customs and things like that? Yes, you can, because they actually just ship from either Europe or America. So you don't have to worry about things like that. It's just the price you pay with the shipping, of course, included. That's all you're gonna have to pay for sure.
Yep. Yeah, it comes from your nearest warehouse, and luckily for us, they have a warehouse. They have a printing station in both Europe and America. So.
Yeah, and they're also very good with their customer service. Apparently, not speaking of these shirts in particular, but Hero bought one of my designs, and the first time he got it, there was this weird pattern on it that shouldn't have been there, so he ordered another one and got the same error, basically it was, and then he just contacted them and they sent him a free shirt, which didn't have it. So if there's ever any issue, you can let us know, of course, but you can definitely also just contact Teespring themselves, and they will probably help you out there. So
hook you up.
Yeah.
If monetary support isn't your thing, 100% agree. Money is weird right now. Economy is weird. Pandemic is weird. The world is weird. 100% get it. You listening to the podcast is high support enough. With you listening to the podcast, that's more listens onto the episodes, onto the podcast as a whole, which actually helps us rank up into the podcast list. And any places that you can leave reviews, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, places like that. And whenever you click the 5-star review, because these are always 5-star episodes, it also helps us get more spotlight onto the podcast as well too. So just simply listening to the podcast is amazing support in itself. And hanging out in Discord and being in our Discord, just talking to us, coming to our streams, and just chilling. We love talking to you all. We love hanging out with you all. We like talking Game Boy or whatever else that you all want to talk about. It's always fun to to hear what you all are doing kind of in your spare times while listening to the podcast itself. So thank you all that do hang out with us and chat with us and listen to our podcast.
Yeah, speaking of, at least the moment of this recording, so it will be a little higher before this episode comes out, but a few days ago we just reached 15,000 listens on what we know from SoundCloud alone, so that's really good. Yeah, thank you all for that.
For a very niche podcast about the Game Boy, that's huge.
Yeah.
So, thank you. All right. Well, enough with the emotional stuff. Next time you hear from, I don't even know when. The next time it might be Legs and Petra. Next time you hear,
it might be. Yeah, we're not sure.
we're gonna voice change possibly to Legs and Petra.
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
So yeah, we don't know what game that will be. Cannot.
It'll
say.
be a surprise.
Yeah.
It'll be a New Year's surprise.
Yeah. But the next time you will hear from us, at least together. I mentioned this one to you before, not on the podcast, I think, but just randomly, because you love Metroid so freaking much. We're gonna do an episode on Metroid 2: Return of Samus. It's gonna be glorious.
Can't wait to shoot walls that don't blow up. Well, at least you're fighting Metroids this time and not stupid T viruses. Sorry for the spoiler.
It's not even a spoiler, but yeah, Metroid 2.
It would have been for me. I never played the other Metroids.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so yeah, I guess we'll be playing Metroid 2. Great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, can't wait to play another Metroid game. I've never played Metroid 2, so this will be an experience in itself.
For sure.
Who knows? Maybe I'll love it. Maybe it'll be my favorite Metroid of all time.
Could be.
Or I may just hate it and just want to burn every copy of it. We'll see. Leaning towards the second option right now. So, yeah. So I guess the next time you hear from both of us together, we'll be talking about Metroids. So yeah, thank you all for listening to the episode. And this episode's coming out December. You won't hear from me again until January. So have a fantastic, safe holiday season, and see you all in 2022.
Yeah, same goes for me, because I will still be back with a light.
Well, you have a light.
Yeah, that's true, but that's still in this year. But yeah, when we both get back, it will already be 2022. So yeah, enjoy your holidays. Have a great Christmas. Hanukkah. Oh man, I can't talk.
Hanukkah.
Boy. Hanukkah. Wow. Kwanzaa or whatever else you might say. Maybe you celebrate nothing. That's fine as well. Just go get drunk and eat something good, and have a happy New Year. Unless you're Japanese, and then it's still not New. See, it just enjoy the the upcoming weeks of the year, and we'll see you in 2022.
Bye-bye. AutoZone.